this is unbelievable in a way, especially if you were there. We covered it. To see this moment rewarded with a $5 million settlement, when we checked, we tried to see, were there officers who were injured, those who died as a result of their injuries or other aspects of.
Now, I haven't watched this yet, so I doubt it, but maybe they'll go in a different angle if somebody put them in check. But do they cry about when, people that some people would think would, where their officers had no choice? In this case, I'm guessing she's thinking that that wasn't the case, but people all across the country get millions and millions of dollars in wrongful death claims constantly. Now, I for one think that if somebody is, criminally found liable, if the officer did criminally wrong, then there's absolute grounds for compensation. However, if the person brought it to them, out to themselves, if the person is using deadly physical force to a law enforcement officer and they in turn get killed, then there are no grounds, right? Is that what happened in this case? Many people would say no. Let's see what they say.
Of their service on January 6th, did they get anything? No settlements for those folks.
Not even money.
So she's talking about the officers that were injured. Yeah, they were doing their jobs, right? Some of them were, some of them weren't. Some of them were, who knows who they were, right? But as a law enforcement officer, when you get injured during the course of your action, you don't have grounds for a suit there, right? You were doing your job. So I don't know what she's talking about as far as law enforcement getting money in terms of, them being reimbursed for the injuries that they sustained while working.
But just even an acknowledgement. I'm just thinking about Brian Sicknick. His mother still waiting for a call from the president. Look, it's
Brian Sicknick, which is the officer that they're saying that was killed that day, right? Many people think that law enforcement officers were killed on J6. No law enforcement officers were killed. Were there some injured? Absolutely. Should the people that injure those officers be prosecuted? Absolutely. That's not what anybody's saying here, right? This particular case is a woman that was inside of the Capitol that was shot in the neck while being behind a locked door. Now, you look at all these other videos out there of people that are up in arms protesting while, the officer shot somebody while the person had a firearm pointed at them, or while the person was trying to run them over with a car, or whatever the case may be, right? There is a absolute brain rot in part of our society, right? That how can we not differentiate between these two things? How can we not differentiate between somebody using deadly physical force and the officer responding accordingly to a woman being behind a locked door and somebody shooting through that door? She was not armed. Not only was she not armed, but there were emergency service personnel right behind her that were ready to break that group up. So, again, it is just astounding how dishonest these people are. It's disgusting.
Under no circumstances, should anybody's death be celebrated or somebody lost their daughter, somebody lost a sister or mother, and it's unfortunate that somebody lost their life there. But what message does it send that an individual, if she lived, she would have been charged. She would have been charged with a crime. She would have been a criminal. What message does that send out there to not just...
Okay, because she would have been charged with a crime. She would have been a designated criminal. As per him and as per many other people and they believe that, and that's fine. There's a justified deadly physical force. I really want to see if he gets to that point here.
Everyday citizens, but to people other criminals at the Capitol who may have been sprayed by police or may have been hit by police, do they get to sue and now be rewarded because their record's clean with Donald Trump?
Yeah, it was called the freaking, like, the Floyd riots. Like, people sued. I know. People sued all throughout all these cities and won settlements, right? Some people that were arrested sued, some people that weren't arrested sued. People were suing throughout the entire country during the Floyd riots and winning these settlements.
Pardoning them.
Yeah, I mean, those are important sort of downstream effects of all this. I mean, does this open the door, Scott, to all these other people suing the police officers that they assaulted?
Yeah, I mean, He raises legitimate questions. I mean, it's a tragic situation because someone died, and it's also a tragic situation because brave police officers were put in harm's way. I'm very defensive of police officers. I back the blue. I think police officers protect us and deserve our support and our admiration. So that's my view.
Should she get the settlement,
This should have never happened. On the settlement, look, they were asking for 30. They got 5. I don't know all the facts internally. I've just seen the reporting about whether they thought maybe a jury would side with her. I don't know.
But isn't this?
But I don't. So it's hard for me to know what facts they were looking at internally about what litigation might have produced. But it is in my opinion, a tragic situation for everyone. The person who died, the police officer who was involved, who by the way was vindicated in internal reports and internal investigations.
Well, that's the point that I want to make. So it was a wrongful death settlement. What was wrong then? If he wasn't charged, he was.
Okay, so again, you look at all these cases, the Floyd case, the Eric Gardner case, all of these cases that spur up, right? And it's so infuriating. You have this one pretty cut and dry case where could you say she did something wrong? Absolutely, you could say she did something wrong. Did it warrant shooting her in the neck? Right? Like you talk about these other cases that are like on the cusp of like, did it cause his death? Eric Gardner. I mean, you look at that Eric Gardner video and you tell me, right, that he choked that man to death. I don't see it, right? When you look at the Floyd case, right, all the evidence there that points to him having an overdose, right? I don't see it. I don't see it. And these are cases where deadly force isn't being used against the person, right? They're claiming that it was. They're claiming that around somebody's neck was deadly force, right? Hands up, don't shoot. We've been saying hands up, don't shoot for like 10 years, and that never happened. It was never something that was a thing. That never happened. He didn't put his hands up and say, don't shoot, and the cop just shoots him, right? So all of these things, and again, it's really hard for me not to get angry and upset, and I feel like that's kind of where they want us to go. And so I try to stay rational and level-headed in these situations because this propaganda, it works both ways, right? It gets us to divide and just to be angry and yell past each other. And that's not something that I want to do. But it's just, you have to be able to say, see, Scott here, because he backs the blue and because he's trying to say his side backs the blue, he's kind of bending the knee here in front of this officer who I think is disgusting. That's a separate topic altogether. We can get into why, right? But again, the fact remains, was deadly force warranted? I cannot see how a wrongful death claim cannot be made in this situation. When you have someone that is unarmed, deadly force is used against her. When you had someone that is behind a locked barrier, behind a barrier, and deadly force is used against her. This officer, honestly, how stupid he is, he should be, forget about charged with a crime. He absolutely, I think he should. He should be fired. Hands down, full stop. He shot through her. There were other officers coming right behind her. He had no idea, right? His sense of awareness is just astounding. This is the same officer, by the way, that lieutenant, whatever the hell his rank is, that left his firearm in a bathroom stall the year prior, right? We're not talking about the cream of the crop here when it comes to this guy. Right, the officer that shot Ashli Babbitt. I don't know where else they're going to go with this. I'm going to try to stay level-headed and just hear them out.
Cleared in multiple investigations.
This insurrection was perpetuated by the same person whose administration settled this case. So it's not like there was some jury or there was some sort of independent body that gave her this money.
They're not winning with this argument, right? The insurrection claims, it's over. They're over. Sorry, honey. I know some people are still going to believe it, and you can still run with it and spin it up, and you can get people to come on your side for it, but it's over.
This money was given to her by the man who even Scott Jennings at one point said,
money was not given to her. She's dead.
Incited this insurrection. His name is Donald Trump.
No, it's coming from taxpayers.
Well,
it is
but
coming from
Donald Trump
taxpayers.
Should pay it.
Donald Trump is the person who allowed that to happen.
And he has been on this issue for a long time. Here's what he said about the officer, actually, who shot Ashli Babbitt. He said the police officer thug who had a very checkered past to begin with, was not just doing his job when he shot and killed great patriot Ashli Babbitt at point blank range, and then he says that she was murdered. He called the officer a thug
Yeah.
who was there protecting members of Congress, Democrat and Republican. The thing about the Ashli Babbitt situation is that we actually saw it. We saw the tape of it. We saw that they were trying to break into the chambers where
Unbelievable. We saw, listen to the verbiage, right? We saw that they were trying to break into the chambers. Okay. And countless video after video after video, we see thugs going like this. Oh, but they didn't shoot. Oh, but we have to let a round get thrown down range, right? Before we could shoot. But she's attempting to break into this locked door with cops coming up behind her. And that's perfectly justified. No problem here. Justified shooting. How do you square this? It's gymnastics to the highest degree, to contort yourself in a manner. And again, Scott Jennings, he's backed into a corner right now because he has to back the blue and this stupid propaganda network. It's
where lawmakers were hiding for their lives.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
That happened because he was protecting our elected leaders. That is not within question here.
Republicans
Abby,
and Democrats.
here in New York, routinely, Democratic elected officials routinely call the members of the NYPD thugs, jackbooted
That's not
pigs.
right either.
I'm just saying, the point I'm trying to make is, why do we always treat this one incident with a different lens than the broader issue of the police being
Because the
assaulted?
largest assault on law enforcement in the history of the United
but
States.
is it being? But
no,
is it,
it probably
Joe,
isn't. It probably isn't.
But Joe, is it really being?
I'm not trying to
treated-
one-up you there.
Is
I'm
it
just-
really?
I'm just
Is
saying.
it really being treated with a different lens, except by the people who are running for office on a back the blue
You're
platform?
talking to me.
I
I'm
mean,
here.
yeah.
I'm not-
That's
I'm
what I'm
not with
saying. I think that the only look on January 7th, there was almost unanimity that this was an awful day, that the people who were involved in it should be prosecuted. Almost everybody agreed with that. The only reason that changed is because Donald Trump wanted it to change. And because Donald Trump was on the
No, the only reason that changed is because we learned the truth. We learned information that we didn't learn before. And everybody is still of the same line. You can't find anyone that said if you punched a cop that day that you shouldn't be put in jail. Now, should you be put in jail for 4 years? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You shouldn't be put in jail for 4 years for assaulting an officer, especially without a weapon, right? And again, it's going back to the evidence at hand. To her point, we have it on film. We have it on film. His life was not in jeopardy until the breach of that door happened, right? And again, officers were coming up through the rear, because when you watch the video, they're at the feet. Ashli Babbitt is at their feet. By the time she hits the floor, the officers are there. So he was shooting through. I don't know what his shots were shooting at, but he was shooting through her, potentially hitting other officers in the back, behind her, and it is absolutely infuriating, and I don't want to get. I got to finish the segment, so let me just keep it going.
On the other side of that issue, all the back the blue people have changed their stance. I agree with you that people should be consistent, but I think the lack of consistency is not where you think it is.
I think there were definitely people who were completely overcharged for their participation. I think people that assaulted police officers on video, on camera, easily provable, should be punished and should spend time in jail. I'm consistent. Right? I said the same thing last segment when we were talking about the
Right.
Congresswoman. I'm saying the same thing
I mean,
this
look,
segment.
if you were in the Oval Office, I think maybe we'd be having a different conversation, but Donald Trump is
Let's
in the
hope.
Oval Office. He has pardoned all of these people, including the ones who assaulted police officers. And now
Yeah, he's pardoned them because they did years in prison. They spent years in prison. They spent the entire Biden administration locked away in a cell. Right? And even the ones that didn't have assault charges on police officers. Seditious conspiracy and whatever the Enron law that I don't even know any of that stuff, right? But all that stuff was just spun up and locked these people away, not giving them their constitutional right, right? Everyone wants due process for people that came here illegally, but nobody wants due process for somebody that walked into the Capitol that day and was used the bathroom and left and then got stuck in a cell for 4 years. Where's their due process?
Justice Department has handed down a $5 million settlement in this case.
But I think the sad thing is when you have larger.
I can't even listen to Cornel West anymore. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because it's the most cringe thing in the world to me. Is Cornel West at this point.
Patterns of might makes right, of Pontius Pilate over Jesus, of Thrasymachus over Socrates. People figure it's all transaction, it's all manipulation, it's all the survival of the slickest. Once you have that dominant in your society, after a while, it doesn't make any difference what's on the books because nobody is taking the book seriously anyway. Rule of law doesn't mean that much. Constitution doesn't mean that much. Quality relations doesn't mean that much.
Harry,
Conversations don't mean that.
Do you feel that way? The rule of law hasn't.
Does anybody know what he just said? Does anybody know what he just said? Like he just walks around with a thesaurus and just throws out synonyms. Like, what the hell was that? Like, why do people still take this guy seriously?
Has less meaning now?
Last week being National Police Week, the White House tweeted whatever it is. We support and will never betray our law men and women in law. Which ones? The ones that voted for you? Like this is about right and wrong. And like you could turn off all the talking heads. You can turn off all the news. Every
Oh my God, is he gonna cry again? Is he gonna cry again?
Everybody's opinion about January 6th. Hell, watch it on mute. Just press play. Just press play. Everybody watched and had a front row seat to watch what happened with Ashli Babbitt, to watch what happened to everybody in the Capitol that day. You don't need anybody's opinion. Just press play. And anybody that can side with those individuals, they got the nerve to call themselves patriots, and they were right. They're attempting to rewrite what happened that day, and that continues with Donald Trump, with this Justice Department awarding Ashli Babbitt's family $5 million. That is coming from taxpayer money. Ashli Babbitt wouldn't have been there if Donald Trump would have accepted that the election was not stolen. So maybe Donald Trump should pay that $5 million himself instead of the American people.
And there you have it. That was a real tough one for me to get through. Yeah. You know, it's Scott's in a tough spot. You guys, again, I constantly forget to do this, but I'm going to try. Please subscribe to the channel if you can, if you're still with me at this point, because I know this video is running a little bit longer than usual. But yeah, Scott's in a little bit of a tough spot because he has to back the blue because I don't know, whatever reason. It's all nonsense at this point. But yeah, the story behind J6 is still the propaganda behind J6 is still being pushed out there. Ashli Babbitt was murdered. That's it. Full stop. Now, did she facilitate somewhat? Should she have not been climbing over the people and trying to get in? Okay, sure. That's fine. But it's no different than somebody, right, attempting to burglarize an apartment or a place or whatever. They get shot, right? You can't do that. You cannot, right? If you're behind a cell, or if you're inside of a secure location, whatever that is, even you can't go out there and use deadly force when you can clearly see that nobody there had weapons. Nobody had weapons, right? All of these charges, stuff like that, no weapons charges. And the only weapons charges that were people that pick things up and use them, which is fine. You can prosecute that. That's legitimate. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is officer was behind closed doors with a clear view of what was going on. Other officers were coming into to the rear of the group to facilitate in getting them out of there. And that officer shot her in the neck and killed her. That's the bottom line. Wrongful death? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if they asked for 30 and they gave her 5, maybe that's because there was some culpability on their end as far as like, yes, they shouldn't have done things. Yes, they would have been charged for trespassing. Maybe they would have been charged for vandalism. Does it justify deadly physical force? Absolutely not. I'll say that every time. Thank you guys for coming here. Please leave a like, leave a share, leave a subscribe. Hit me up in the comments. We can discuss this. I love discussing issues like this. I'm very passionate about stuff like this. We'll get into why in the future. But again, like, share, subscribe. We will see you on the next video. Hit me up in the comments, and we'll get into an argument down in the comments. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.